Welcome to Brews and Boxing. This meeting is being recorded, even though you guys didn't hear that is what pops up on our screen or in our ears now when we start a show, which is gets these guys ready to rock and roll as if they weren't already. As you can tell, we are one guy's not moving too well. He's a little frozen, but that's okay. We'll get it rocking and rolling for there. Lots of fun things to talk about this week. We got Brews and News. It's the first of the month, so of course we're going to do our Filthy Five. This month we are doing the 140 division, otherwise known as the junior welterweight. And we got some reviews to handle some good fights this last weekend. Maybe not talk about what's coming up this upcoming weekend, but maybe we'll touch on it. All right, our first expert, always here. A little depressed because Lakers aren't doing so good, but I'll tell you this, Filthy Rich never leaves the show 5 minutes early. The one, the only Filthy Rich. How you doing, Filthy?
It's Mayweather Paul. Logan Paul.
What about it? Okay, good entry there. All right, and as you can tell, he's a man of few words. Maybe he's like LeBron walking off 5 minutes early. And our other expert is the judge, Jimmy James. Judge, how you doing?
Well, not too bad. Forgot about the recording thing. That caught me off guard. But yeah, way to go. Good work ethic there, Brown.
Okay. And not joining us via satellite issues is the Bach, as you can see down there, but we will refer to him from time to time. Some satellite issues in Lindstrom, Minnesota, so we're hoping one day they get the internet up there. All right, you guys ready for Brews and News?
Let's go.
All right.
Ring that bell.
All right, Brews and News, where we talk about brew or news of the week. But first thing we do, of course, is pop a brew because that's the name of the show. So, gentlemen, I already popped mine, so I'm going to put my cap back on so I can act like I'm doing it. That's called acting. Cheers.
Cheers.
You drinking a Sprite there, Judge? Is that what that is? It looks like a Sprite.
Yeah, it's refreshing. It's got bubbles. No.
Oh, okay. At least it's a beer.
It's not good.
Oh, it didn't look good. Well, certainly if you choose to sponsor us, we do like it. But
right. I've got two more that I like.
Okay. You can't like every beer.
That's true.
All right. First thing we're going to talk about, big fight finally coming up. Probably going to be one of the biggest fights of the year. No, we're not talking the heavyweight division. We're talking Pac-Man makes his return to the ring, and he's not fighting an exhibition fight against a exhibition fighter or a joke fighter. He's actually fighting top of the division, Errol Spence Jr. It's set for August 21st. It sounds like it's set in stone. Probably going to be the biggest pay-per-view of the year, tied with Fury and Wilder, but we'll see how it goes. Gentlemen, how excited are you for this fight? Well, we don't need to break it down too much because we'll do that as the fight comes out. We'll definitely have a pre-show for it. But James, what do you think about Pac-Man and Spence getting it on for the 21st? And how does this also affect Terrence Crawford's view in this division?
Well, I'm excited for the fight. It's definitely the three people that should be fighting. Didn't think that Spence would be fighting Pacquiao, but man, this might be what I fear for Pacquiao. Could be like his farewell fight, regardless if he wins or loses at this point. Definitely his draw, PBC pay-per-view. So, I mean, this is going to be all-time great versus someone who is trying to solidify himself in, the sport of boxing. So I think it's gonna be a really good fight. And for to touch base on what does this mean for Crawford?
Yeah, I mean, it's Crawford's kind of being the third man out of this. He's always in the talks up there, and he's always talking about never taking a fight. But Spence is taking a Pac-Man fight. I know Crawford wanted a Pac-Man fight too, but I guess they just couldn't come to the money. It's on the way.
I think this is a promotional deal, to be honest. Rich is probably going to touch base a lot more on this, but I think this is all Bob Arum's fault. I think Terrence Crawford needs to get out of Top Rank and move on to something better, to start getting some fights. I saw a rumor that he might be fighting somebody, and I don't remember who it was. So that doesn't say much for who the opponent was when I read it earlier in the week. So that's pretty much all I got for that. I think he needs to break away from Top Rank and move on.
I thought I saw something on Sean Porter's Instagram too. It said, you're taking a fight against this guy, and I've been saying fight me forever. But it sounds like it's not going to be a Sean Porter fight. But we do have Pac-Man Spence on the horizon at the judge's house, hopefully. Filthy Rich, what do you think about this fight coming up?
It should be a good fight. I'm glad to see both guys are, not taking tune-ups in between. I think the last time we saw both of them, they were both matched up against guys who were ranked in the top 10, if not the top 5. So I'm glad that this fight was able to be made, and I'm looking forward for it. I think this is about as 50-50 as you're going to get. I think people are counting Pacquiao out because of his age, and people are counting LeBron out because of his age, but he's the only one who shows up. Unlike our guy here in the corner, he didn't show up either. So I'm kind of like the LeBron of this show. I'll drink to that.
Well, the thing about the age thing, I'm glad you brought that up. Pacquiao's last fight will be over 2 years. He'll be out of the ring for over 2 years when this fight happens. But he beat Keith Thurman on July 20th, 2019. I mean, he did fight another fight that year against Adrian Broner, but that doesn't really count. But Keith Thurman is a solidified top 5, top 10 guy. But that was 2 years ago. You're not worried about a little ring rust jumping in to fight Errol Spence after 2 years of ring rust?
I don't think it's ring rust. I think it's letting your body heal. I think he's good to go. I think maybe not a lot of guys, but sure, a few guys have the quote unquote ring rust from. I think we're all a little rusty from 2020, but Pacquiao is like that ageless wonder. I'm not betting against him until probably he gets knocked out, and I haven't seen that since I think it was Marquez 4, one of those fights. So I think it's a 50-50 fight. I'm not counting Pacquiao out one bit. He could win this fight, but I'll take Spence today.
I'm not doubting that he can win the fight. I'm definitely on the Spence side too, but he can definitely win that fight. I mean, I don't know if it's 50-50, but I think it's at least 70-30, 60-40. But Judge, do you think there's any issue with the 2-year layoff for a man of Pacquiao's age of 105 years old?
If it was a lot of other boxers, I'd probably say yes, but this is Pac-Man, and he has transcended decades of boxing and how many 8 divisions. This man is physically fit for the rest of his life, so I don't think that this is really going to affect him nearly as much as it would other people. But I think it'll still play a factor, unfortunately. But I'm going to be on the other side. I'm probably going to say it's a Pac-Man victory.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll get into more of this as the fight gets closer, and we'll definitely have a pre-show and a probably very drunken post-show for that one as well. I know you guys like that, especially
non-verbal binding.
Not verbal binding, but most likely. All right, moving. What's that? Did you have something else? Okay, good. All right, moving on to the second piece of news. Jim Lampley, my guy, is apparently signing a deal with Triller, not Thriller. Somebody wrote it in there to be the play-by-play voice. Is Triller Fight Club battling for a piece of the boxing pie against DAZN and the other top dogs, or is this an all-in attempt to become the next best thing in sports entertainment, standing alone? Jim Lampley, I wish he was calling this Pacquiao fight, I'll tell you that, but he will be calling the Teofimo Lopez fight coming up this upcoming month, he says. So that'll be his first day, first pay-per-view with Triller, not Thriller. Oh, look, it changed. Okay. Triller, not Triller. Yeah, that's what you get when you pay bad writing. No, but Filthy Rich, what do you think about our guy Jim Lampley going to Triller? Does he fit in there with Snoop Dogg? Can you imagine Jim Lampley next to Snoop Dogg in a announcement?
I think it's probably a good move. We haven't heard Lampley since 2015 when HBO Boxing went off the air, which I'm still crossing my fingers that we'll get some more HBO Boxing in the future. I don't know when, but I know they have a young guy as like the executive producer of HBO Sports who got rid of the whole boxing entertainment. But maybe I thought he was going to lose his job and they were going to replace him and bang, more HBO Boxing. Here's the other thing. Brian Custer just signed a deal with ESPN, I believe. And one thing I wanted to look at was, does this like cancel his contract with Showtime? And apparently it doesn't. So Brian Custer is now with ESPN and Showtime. I'm hoping Jim Lampley kind of gets that same thing. I think this will, this will get him back on television. And who knows, maybe he'll be calling a fight for ESPN. Maybe he'll be able to sign with DAZN. He'll be able to sign with anyone he wants. So I don't look at this as like an exclusive deal with Triller. If they shell out the dollars to keep him away the way Vince McMahon did Hulk Hogan back in the 80s, it could be a good thing, I guess. But I don't think anyone should be limited to one network. I hope this keeps the door open for HBO. And if he has to, reunite with Max at ESPN, if they ever let Max call a fight on ESPN.
That's true. Well, I can't believe this came as a shock to me when you guys put this on there. I can't believe they didn't sign Oscar De La Hoya to be their new play-by-play guy. I mean, wasn't he amazing? And cocaine is really expensive, so I mean, I think that he needed some money. But James, what do you think about Lampley coming back? You share a name with the man, obviously, and you also love Snoop Dogg. So, what do you think of those two being the Vince McMahon / Jesse the Body Ventura style announcers for this coming up?
I think it's good to get Lampley back in the game, get back in the sport. I mean, I think it was he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. He's announced boxing for 30 plus years, I think, before he was, before HBO canned the series. But I mean, he's a super knowledgeable dude. I liked listening to him talk. It was good. I mean, personally, I agree with Rich. I like HBO boxing. I like Lampley and Kellerman. Probably some other guys that I'm forgetting from there because it's been so dang long, but that is a good thing. I mean, I can't believe Kellerman isn't doing any sort of boxing announcing at all. That's crazy. But
it doesn't make sense. They signed him and you give him a boxing show and you don't let him announce the fights. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't get that. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a very strong play. Obviously we don't know why Lampley hasn't been in the business anywhere else, why he wasn't picked up by Showtime or the PBC or ESPN. But this is just another quick big move by Triller, and it just makes me wonder. I don't know what direction he's going for, because what Ryan Kavanaugh, I think, is the CEO of Triller, was saying that he wants to be the sports, music, and entertainment, conglomerate or something deal like that, right? So I think he's kind of going towards being just so different from what's been around and what is around, that he's trying to start something different. And it kind of makes me think of like Idiocracy, where you got that whole wall of the guys watching all of these shows, and it's just nonstop, and it's just music and this and entertainment, and it's just like a mashed up all together. I think this is what's happening. Kind of makes me scared a little bit. So hopefully this doesn't happen. But I mean, I think that's what they're kind of pushing for is that table, as opposed to something brand new, as opposed to just being the run of the mill.
So you're saying in a couple fights, when Triller goes full on Idiocracy, we'll come over to your house and they'll go away, I'm baiting? Is that what you're gonna say?
Pretty much, man. I mean, I have seen I don't remember what his name is, but one of his middle names is Hector Macho Camacho, is literally the middle name of the president of the United States at that point, and he shoots off a giant gun before something. So I mean, I guess
that's true.
I
wonder if Lampley's going to wear the tuxedo and smoke weed with Snoop Dogg at the same time. That'd be hilarious to see.
That'd be
why not?
Good prop bet.
It's in Nevada. It's legal. Yeah, let's prop bet that one. Maybe we'll put that one. Well, that'd be a good idea. Let's do prop bets on our pre-show. That'd be fun. All right, let's go on to the last one here. Joe Smith Jr., fresh after winning the title, may defend his newly acquired light heavyweight title against Daniel Jacobs. Is this a good move for Joe Smith Jr., or should he be focusing on a fight against Bevo or ultimately Better Biev? James, I'm going to throw it to you to start. New title, Daniel Jacobs. He's not wasting any time fighting a scrub. Daniel Jacobs is no scrub. Or do you think he should be moving on to Bivol or Better BF?
Well, this is an interesting name to come up, honestly, because Jacob's last fight was at 168 against Gabriel Rosado, and honestly, I didn't think he won that fight. Rosado looked a lot better than Jacobs. Jacobs looks like he has lost something, where he's not the same fighter as I've seen him in the past.
He's still dangerous, though. He's not a gatekeeper.
I don't know if I can agree with that. He should have done a lot better job against Gabe Rosado, and I didn't see that happen. So for him to want to move up to 175, another division, and then go up against Joe Smith Jr., I think that's a dangerous fight for him. Is this good for Joe Smith Jr.? I don't know.
Obviously, it's a dangerous
possibly.
fight.
I mean, I think it against B. If we're talking about the three, Jacobs or Bivol or Beterbiev, this is the least dangerous fight for Joe Smith Jr. in my opinion. I think he has the best chance of winning by a KO, or winning period against Jacobs, just because I think Jacobs might be stretching his weight limit at that point.
Right.
But I mean, so yeah, I think he should be focusing on a fight probably against Bivol or Beterbiev, and not entertaining this fight against Jacobs.
I disagree. I think a Jacobs fight is a good fight. It's a name. It's a fight that can still get some money and some buys, and a fight that Joe Smith Jr. should win because, as you said, Jacobs is moving up, might be overstretching himself a little bit, but it's still you get that one title defense. No one wants to win the title and lose it in their next fight. So I mean, if you get that one title defense and then use it as a platform to call out Bivol or Beterbiev, I think that's the way to go personally. But Filthy Rich, what do you think?
Well, with the Rosado fight, I mean, I'm not a genius. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I think we all know this. But
Yes, you are.
When you struggle to make weight, you're going to struggle. So I think him moving up to 175 is probably because he struggled against Rosado, but he also struggled to make weight. So now that he's up to 175, maybe he's comfortable there. We will find out shortly. Now, is this like the right fight for Smith Jr.? Well, I mean, when we were first introduced to Smith Jr., it was against a 50-year-old Bernard Hopkins. Put him out. It was an old dude. He went on later to fight, I believe it was, I don't know if it's Andre or Andrew Fonfara. He retired Fonfara. Fonfara was like a top 5 at 175 at the time. Retired that dude. I think he's fought another elder statesman in the division and won. So for him to fight Jacobs, I think Jacobs is past his prime. I think he is one of those gatekeeper guys. And this makes sense when I look at Joe Smith's career. He's fighting, it's like I don't call it a Mayweather thing, but fighting guys past their prime, guys who were once pretty big names in the sport. And this makes sense. Whoever Joe Smith Jr.'s promotion team is, or management team, whoever like books these fights, they're doing a good job with him. So like, I don't know if I'm looking forward to it, but I think if this fight happens, Smith's gonna win. I think it's a smart move on Smith's part.
Man, hearing you say that, it just reminded me of something that you could respect. Sounds like the ploy or the plot of Randy Orton, the Legend Killer. Joe Smith is going to become the Legend Killer. Randy Orton style.
Maybe
he'll just come out there and sneak out and give him the RKO out of nowhere after the fight. That'd be great. That sounds like it. He's retiring all these legends. But James, you have any retorts to that? Or you seem like you're a little you look like you're agreeing with him a little bit for most of the things.
I mean, Rich makes good points. Rich always makes good points, man. I just can't toss that stuff out the window. But I just, I don't disagree that I think Joe Smith would beat Jacobs. I just don't know if it's the right move for Joe Smith Jr. Given his age and everybody else's age around him. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. Time will tell.
We will see. But for right now, we will see. Take a look to the past.
Well, we have Joe Smith Jr. on with us, don't we?
No, the satellite feed is gone. Yeah. And he lost a little Mac actually this last.
He's still working construction out there, all right?
Well, let's look to the past. Last weekend for Brews and Reviews. All right, Brews and Reviews, where we talk about the fights of the last week. I know you may have noticed that you didn't get to see our brews and previews about these fights because we have a lost episode situation. Our episode last week got lost in the internets on my computer and became corrupted. So hopefully I can fix that, and maybe we'll just have a lost episode at one point that we can put out there. But we did talk about these fights, and believe me, we did get these fights right on the prediction side, but we're going to talk about it anyway. We'll start with Donaire versus Oboali. I can never say his name right. Oboali? Is that Obobali? I couldn't say it even when they were doing the fight. Anyone want to jump in there, Rich?
Nope.
I think
Okay,
it's
good talk.
Obali.
Obali. Is that? I thought it was Obabali. I don't know.
No, I think it's Obali.
I don't know. There was maybe I was listening.
I don't know,
to
man.
Oscar
It's
De La Hoya,
French.
maybe I don't know. Whatever. Donaire versus the French guy, and it was Donaire's Fountain of Youth came out and destroyed him with a knockout in the fourth round. I'll go to Rich for more of an in-depth review, even though I just gave you the ending there. Spoiler alert. Rich, why don't you tell us a little about that Donaire fight that I won at 2-1, by the way, on Donaire.
Yeah, Obali looked pretty good. He seemed to be maybe the busier fighter. I think the fight ended. It's like the beginning of the fourth. Here's what I can tell you. Obali looks like he belongs at this division, and Donaire looks like he's got too much power for the division, but isn't fast enough. He's showing his age. He has the footwork of a aging quarterback who just can move to the left just the slightest and miss have one of the biggest punches miss him. His defense, Donaire's defense looked really good. Ubali looked busier, but his punches didn't seem to be affecting Donaire, and Donaire's power. I mean, we're talking 118, these bantamweights, but Donaire's power just was too much for Ubali. At some point, Ubali gets knocked down, I think twice, including right at the bell in the third round. And at the beginning of the fourth, Donaire's power was just too much. I mean, there was nothing fancy about Donaire. He's just a 38-year-old veteran who's been in the game forever, and he is slowing down. He's not a Pacquiao. Pacquiao doesn't look to be slowing down. I mean, a little bit, but Donaire has slowed down considerably. I think he's got probably a few years left. It sounds like he still wants to accomplish a few things, but that's all I got on this end.
Well, Donaire, I thought he looked great. And everyone forgets his last fight was against Inoue, where he went the distance with Inoue. I mean, he does have the stamina still, and that was not. It was a unanimous decision, but it wasn't a total blowout fight. I didn't think. I thought he won a few rounds on that fight, but as I said, Donaire, some reason, came in a 2-1 underdog in that fight. Judge, you told me that's ridiculous, and I jumped right on that and made that money. Thanks for that money, James. But where does Donaire go from here, and what's next also for the Frenchman there, James?
Well, Donaire, I mean, at this point,
he's the champ.
I think he retained the WBC belt, right?
He won it.
Or won it. Did he win it?
He won it.
Okay, so yeah, if he's got a belt, then he's got some options. At this point, there's a rematch in line with Inoue, or he can attempt to fight Casemiro to get the WBO belt, and then see at that point, then it would be an undisputed champion against Inoue, and I guarantee that Inoue would take that fight if he's still at 118. But other than that, I mean, those are the two fights that if I was Donaire, that's what you're making. He is one of them. The Filipino Flash, man. He is just going to be around for a while, and I think he's probably got 4 more years in him, which is just ridiculous. But that's what I think. For Ubali, probably going to have to take a fight. It could also take a fight against Casemiro, maybe another fight against Maloney, who lost to Inoue. He used to be a champion. Something like that. I mean, I guess he could even try to make a fight against Rigondeaux, something like that, right? Like an old man who's still well, I don't know, even know how old Rigondeaux is. Probably
I mean,
like
he just lost
86
to one
years
old
old,
man.
but you know, maybe he does something like that, gets back on it, and then sees if he can still hang around at 118. You know, I probably agree with Rich. He's doesn't have too much on his belt, but he's still old for the division. I think he's like 32.
He's 34, actually. He's 34.
Jesus. Wow. All right. Well, I didn't know that, but so I think that's what he goes. You think he even fights like Casemiro, maybe for a belt if they think he gave him enough shot, or else he's going to fight like a Jason Maloney or a Brigandio.
Well, the one thing I think we need to Donaire needs to do, which I think you both missed on, but you both touched on it a little bit, is change his nickname. He is not a Flash. He's definitely a lot slower. Should
The
not be called
Flush.
Flash there. the Filipino Crush or something. I don't know. Yeah, but he's not the Filipino Flash. I don't know what that is. But hey, James, work on that nickname for him, would you? Maybe give him, maybe sell him the sauce. Hey, the sauce would be
Yeah.
his nickname for him.
Yeah, there you go. Nino Donaire, the sauce is available for sale. In fact, you know what? I will give it to you free of charge. My gift to you.
The sauce. Maybe we should just call him the sauce from now on. Nonito, the sauce Donaire. I mean, that sounds great. Actually,
Sure.
sounds good.
I'll drink to that. Copyright
All right. All right. Next fight we talked a lot about last week in the last episode was Devin Haney versus Linares, and I always said that Linares is tough. He fought James still this day says he didn't knock down Lomachenko, but he definitely did. He's tough. He's strong. And he put a lot of heart in that, and he put a little scare into Haney in them last few rounds. I thought Haney's legs were going to go. Haney says they weren't, but my eyes say a different story. James, why don't you give us a little in-depth on this fight that went the distance? Also, I want to bet on over 8.5.
I mean, I was excited to see what was going to happen, right? Because Linares' last fight was just a bust, and Haney, his last fight, did not look nearly like the superstar that he's supposed to be, right? But both of these guys last weekend, they brought it. This was a great fight. Haney, I think, definitely stepped up, showing some of his skills, and a little bit better power. However, Linares also came in showing how much he can say F you to your game and just throw some wicked straights very fast and some good body shots. And he hit Devin Haney in the face in the 10th round or the 9th round.
It was the 9th, yeah.
And it really, that one, you could see old stanky legs happening a little bit with Haney. And it was weird. But it was back and forth. This is a really good fight. And then after Haney got rung, it was just
it was a hang on to survival fight, basically.
It's just the goofiest thing, man. Like Haney was just lunging at Linares to hug him as much as possible. It looked like a PBS show. Like he was just trying to, like he was on Barney or something, just trying to hug everybody. And like, that's the only thing he was doing. So it was a bummer at the end of the fight. But this was definitely a fight I would recommend watching. Haney, I think, stepped up a little bit. I think Linares obviously showed that he's still a guy to beat in this division, which is crazy to think because I definitely was dogging him before. But this is, I think this was good for actually both fighters. I still think the correct fighter won, but it was a lot closer than I anticipated it being.
Yeah, after Haney got rocked, I thought it was a whole different fight. I thought Linares was smelling blood. He just couldn't put him away, and there was a lot of hugging going on after that. It was holding on for dear life. I don't think Haney says he was never hurt and this and that, but yeah, he was hurt definitely. And Linares is tough. I mean, he's knocked down Lomachenko, and then he went the distance with Haney here. And the judges, Moretti had it 115, 113. The other two judges had 116, 112. If Linares would have got busy a little earlier, maybe in the 7th round, could have been a whole different ball game. But be interested to see where the future for these two guys is next. And for that, we're going to go to Rich. Where's the future with Haney and Linares?
Well, Linares put up a pretty good fight. I think, boy, I mean, the name that comes to everyone's mind, I believe, is someone like Lomachenko, and another name is Lopez. But let's forget those guys for now. When it comes to Linares, I think he should go after someone like a Luke Campbell, someone else who just lost, who hasn't been in the mix. He could probably beat Luke Campbell and like build up something again, like something, build his name up again, add another name to his body, because Luke Campbell's not like an easy fight. I also think someone like Gamboa, who Haney just beat, who he said, I think he went 12 rounds with Gamboa. I think Gamboa still has something in him. So a Linares Gamboa fight would make sense. And like I just said, forget Lomachenko, but Lomachenko's coming off a loss. He has Nakatani coming up. But if I'm Linares, I'd try to go get revenge after the guy who beat me. And even with Lomachenko, why not go after someone like Linares? So those three names, Gamboa, Lomachenko, and Luke Campbell, I think they would all work out for Linares. As far as like Devin Haney goes, I know he said don't even talk about him, but like I think a Teofimo Lopez fight, I think that would be a good fight. Lomachenko is a good fight. I think the answer is actually Ryan Garcia. I think that's the one that we need to see happen. If there was like some sort of round robin tournament going on, I think Haney and Ryan Garcia would be the ones who met next in this, fake round robin. So those would be the guys I think Haney and Linares should go after next.
Either you guys interested in a rematch?
Yes.
You are interested? I think a rematch would be a good.
Not immediately. Let them go their separate ways. We saw what happened, but let them go around. If Haney loses to Garcia and Linares gets a win, then a rematch would make sense. But we don't need an immediate rematch, but I wouldn't mind seeing them go at it again.
How about you, James? Are you thinking an immediate rematch is a good idea or not?
Nah.
No. I think the one that for Linares is Gamboa. I think you hit on the head with that one. I think that's a good fight to have. Haney, I don't know. Garcia's interesting. Is he even going to be fighting by then? The other thing, and then we don't know.
Talking a lot of crap.
Well, that's
to
what he
everyone.
does best. He does do that best. And then, Lomachenko, he's still a big question mark. We'll see if he comes back as a full force in this division again. If he looks dominant, then that changes everything, I would imagine. But if he looks like he did against Teofimo, where he comes out slow for 8 rounds and doesn't do anything, I don't know if the Lomachenko money train's going to be there anymore. I don't know. That's what I think. Any final thoughts on that, you guys?
No, not for me. The judge has already made his decision.
All right. Rich, you have any final closing arguments before the judge?
No, I don't want to object to the judge.
All right.
Leave it alone.
Well, let's move on
Sustained.
Let's move on to our Filthy Five. Filthy Five, where we rank a division. This month, we're doing the 140 division. Always a fun division to talk about. We give our top 10s. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a top 10 from the Bach up north. He just said 1 and 2, and the rest doesn't matter, or something along that lines. It doesn't, I disagree. I think this is a very interesting division. And looking at our lists, they're actually pretty close. We only had 11 fighters in our list this time. So me and James actually agreed on all 10 of the boxers that are in the top 10. And Richie had one that was in his list that wasn't in ours. So,
sorry, Rich.
It's classic Rich. But how we'll do it, as we do it every month, we'll give you 5 through 3, and then we will do the honorable mentions, and then we will do 1 and 2. How we some rules here. We did say Gervonta Davis does count at 140 after much discretion. We talked about it. We decided that we were including him in here. Was there any other rules I was missing on there, guys? I think that was the only main one, right?
I would say, Adrian Broner can't find a weight, but
Right.
if he was at 140, which I think his last fight was at 147, but if he was at 140, I think he would have made my top 10, but he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think he would have made the top 5 though. I don't think he would have made the 5. But looking at
Wow.
the 5 anyway. All right. Here we go with our number 5 with 16 points. Jose Zapata. We got I had him at 5. James had him at 6. Richie had him at 6. Since you guys were split down the middle, I will go to James because he didn't say anything the last time. So go ahead. He didn't say anything about the rules, so I'm tossing.
Well, Jose Zapata, I think he's just outside my top 5 personally. 34, 2-2, 26 KOs. Literally just had what I think it was the fight of the year in 2020 against Ivan Baranchik, where there was 8 knockdowns between the two of them inside 5 rounds of boxing, which was just crazy. I'm glad I'm glad both of them are alive right now with that stuff. But I got Zapata personally right in the middle because I think he is right in the middle. I don't think he's going to be higher than he is right now. I think if anything, he's going to start falling down my list. But I think he beats or puts on a really good show with the people below it. Not really anything flashy. This last fight that I watched, I mean, he looked all right. Like I said, nothing flashy, but I got him at 6 personally, because I just don't think he's going to climb any higher in this division anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of have him in the same spot, 6, 6, and 5. I mean, it seems like we all kind of in agreement that this is roughly where he's at. Rich, you had him at 6, agreeing with the judge there. You have anything to add about Zapata?
Well, I mean, I kind of disagree with everything that was just said. I think with this division specific, I just agree, not disagree. I just agree. I agree with everything that was just said.
Okay.
I think the top of this division is the high resume. The best resumes are at the top of this division. And then we get to a breaking point, the gatekeeper, and then the best of the rest. And I think Zapata is just like probably the best of the rest. Just like James said, I don't see him climbing anymore. He's going to have to get a big name. We'll go through like the top 4 here pretty soon, but he's going to have to beat a top 4 guy. And in my case, he'd have to beat a top 5 guy. In James's case, he'd have to beat a top 5 guy. I don't see it happening. Not to mention Showtime. The pre-fights to the Donaire Ubali fight had a few guys at 140. 3 of those 4 guys are probably going to be on this list next year.
Probably true. So it's one of the divisions like the one we did last month that can totally change within a year. Totally change within a year. All right, let's move on to number 4 here. Keep it moving here. With 23 points, Jose Ramirez coming off a loss to Josh Taylor. I have him right at 4. Dead on again. James, you had him at 3. You didn't drop him down too far. And Richie, you didn't drop him down too far either. You had him at 3 as well. Just off his title fight there, his title loss. What do you guys think? Richie, we'll start with you this time since you guys are both the same ranked again. But James started last time.
Expert.
Yeah, again, with me, I think the top of this division are the people who have proven that they belong at 140, and they've been dominant at 140. Ramirez is, Ramirez would be I think he'd be number 1 had he won his last fight, and he didn't. So we can't put him at number 1. I don't believe he beats the number 2 guy I have, but he is like the best of the rest, and he's proven himself to like be on this list where some of the other guys still have some work to do. But I think I have him at 3, and that's why.
Judge, you take it over. You got him at 3 as well. What do you got to add? We're expert testimony over there.
Yeah, I mean, he showed some flaws against Josh Taylor. And that's didn't know if that was going to happen in his career. I have him at 3. I still think his previous fight against Postal, I don't think he won that one. Stand by that. But I just see him still being a very big threat in this division. I think this is where he is the most effective. A couple other people on my top where I think it would be extremely good fights. Probably go either way, but I don't know how many are the same stance as Josh Taylor, but exposed him a bit. We'll see how he has to bounce back from that, because obviously that's a first loss. So it's how do I react for now? So, but I still got him at 3 because I don't think he drops. I don't think he drops far enough. This is we'll see what happens in the future, but yeah, I mean, I think it was good. I think.
Well, I think he's a great fighter. Obviously, I had him to win that fight against Josh Taylor, but showed a lot of heart in that fight. He's, you talk about Jose Zapata. He beat Zapata. So like, if Zapata had to beat somebody in the top 4, he couldn't. He didn't beat Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez also beat Victor Postal, as you touched on. He beat Maurice Hooker, and he's got some good wins under his belt. He just had his first loss, and it was a close fight too. And it was he had to fight both Josh Taylor and he had to fight Kenny Bayless off of him the entire fight too. So I don't know what the heck was going on that whole fight, but I think he deserves a rematch more than anyone. I probably would have had him up at 3 with you guys if it wasn't for my number 3. Obviously that's, you'll understand when I get there, but obviously he would be up there if this guy wasn't in the list. But well, I just gave that away anyway. But Jose Ramirez, fantastic fighter. Moving on to number 3, 24 points, 1 point ahead of Ramirez, is Gervonta Davis. And that's why I had him at 3. James, you had him all the way at 2. Rich, you had him at 4, which kind of puts us right in the middle there. Ramirez would have been my 3 if we didn't include Davis on this list. There was a lot of controversy whether we put Davis on this list or not. But James, since you had him at 2, we'll let you start.
Well, I got Davis at 2 because I just don't believe that he loses to anyone below him on my list. He showed me something against Leo Santa Cruz that I was not expecting when he made weight. And definitely this is 2 weight classes up, but I have seen this man struggle to make weight before, so I think that he is going to be someone that flourishes in a higher weight class. This might be the weight for him to just go crazy. And I still got him at 2 for other reasons, but Tank Davis is just a beast. Punching power, can take a punch. I am really excited to see if he stays in this division after he fights Barrios, to see exactly if he can hang with these guys at 140.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He beat Santa Cruz at 129.5, and it was one of the knockouts of the year. But that's a whole 10 pounds difference. It'll be interesting to see if his power really goes up there. I think Josh Taylor's got better all around game, and now that I think about it, I almost want to put Ramirez in front of him again. Now I'm thinking about it. Rich, I think you did have him in front, or Ramirez in front of Davis, so I think I'm starting to agree with you here, but I'll let you even talk some more about it, convince me some more.
Well, even with the Santa Cruz fight, I believe Santa Cruz moved up in weight. So Santa Cruz's power wasn't gonna carry to that weight, but did what he could against Davis, and you weren't gonna beat Davis. No one at 130 would beat him. No one at 135 is beating him, and no one at 140 is gonna beat Davis. Davis is gonna beat all these guys, but they gotta be willing to step into the ring with him. I wouldn't bash anyone for ducking Davis. Props to Barrios for taking this fight. I think Davis beats Barrios. Once he beats Barrios, he'll have a resume at this division, and he can go after whoever wants some of that, because I don't think any of these guys want it. I have like my 1, 2, and 3 guys at 1, 2, and 3 because they have beaten guys at this division. Once Davis starts beating guys at this division, he'll probably be at, if he chooses to stay at 140 next year, he'll be number 1 at 140. I don't even have to second guess that, but that's all I got for Davis. I have him at 4 because he is like the bar. Everybody below him, they're not going to beat him, and they don't have the resume that the top 3 guys have.
So you think his power is going to carry up then 140?
Absolutely. I think he can probably beat some heavyweights. I shouldn't say that, but
wow. Okay, that was a Raider statement right there. All right, Judge, do you have any final thoughts on retort to that? Does his power carry up to 140 or not?
I think it does. It's Tank Davis, man. He been struggling to make 130 for God knows how long. I think it translates no problem up the division. So I stand by what I said.
One last final question on that. Davis has had struggled to make weight pretty much at every class he's been at. Is that become more of, is it, this is more kind of towards Rich, is it more of a guy's not at his natural weight, or is it a discipline problem that he can't get to a certain weight? I mean, is it, when guys have weight problems, historic weight problems like he does, is it more that route of he's just not at his natural weight, or is it the lack of discipline, basically?
I mean, it's a little of both. I think a lot of these guys aren't at their natural weight. That's why they all have to, like, not struggle to get down, but everyone has to come down in weight. We see guys like Pacquiao who will eat at the day of the weigh-in. Even like Floyd, I think when he fought Conor, I mean, that fight was at like 154 and Floyd weighed in at like 149. So there's certain guys who are fighting in their right division. Most of these guys, they walk around 10, maybe even 15 pounds heavier than they actually do come like game time. But even with Davis, I've heard that there are discipline issues. So, let's forget it. Let's just move up to 140. We don't have to be disciplined. We can probably eat. I say we as in it's me and Tank Davis. Duh. We can eat the day of the weigh-in and have no problems making weight. So, yeah, to answer the question, it's a little bit of both. He's not at his natural weight, and there are some discipline issues. That's just my opinion.
Right on. All right, before we get into our top 2 here, let's go into our honorable mentions here. As I said, we only had 11 boxers make our list here, so we were all pretty much agreement on the boxers. At 6 with 12 points, 4 points out of the top 5 was Arnold Barboza. I had him at 7. James had him at 9. Richie had him at 5. Victor Postal came in at 7th with 11 points, had him at 6. James had him at 8. Richie had him at 8. Robert Easter came in at 8 with 10 points. He had 2. I had him at 8. James had him at 5. Richie had him at 10. That's what kind of brought him down. Was me and Richie brought him down. At 9, we had Jose Pedraza with 5 points. I had him at 10. James had him at 7. Richie did not have him ranked, which kept him out of it. At 10th was Mario Barrios with 5 points. I had him at 9. James had him at 10. Richie had him at 9. And then Ivan Baranchik was the one that Richie had with 4 points. Richie had him at 7, and me and James did not have him ranked. I'm going to just open it up instead of asking you guys questions about this. I'm going to open it up to each of you to talk about one of these fighters that are in our honorable mentions and where you had them ranked and why. We will start with let's start with James this time. James, you want to talk about one of these guys?
Yeah, I want to talk about Robert Easter, bud.
Yeah, I assume you would because you had him at 5, and
I got him at number 5. Yeah, I do, and I think that this guy is definitely still someone in this division. I can't think you will look past him. His only loss is to Mikey Garcia, and he did a really good job against Mikey Garcia, but it was Mikey Garcia in literally his prime, like his prime weight, his prime period. And I still think he did a really good job against Garcia with his jabs, his long reach. I mean, he does have like an excessively long reach for this division at like 76 inches long. Like, it is ridiculous. But I mean, then his next follow-up fight was a draw against Rancis Barthélemy.
That was a Kenny Bayless fight.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's at a bad shake on those two fights. I think he is still someone who should not be taken lightly in this division. I think he beats the likes of a Pedraza, Postal, a Barboza, even a Barrios. I think he's just dangerous. I think he's still dangerous. I think he needs to get another big name fight. This is why I have him at 5, because I think that he creates more problems for people given his height, his size, and his reach that are just not normal to this specific division.
Does he beat Zapata? Zapata?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Rich, you want to comment on that, or do you want to bring up your guy?
Well, with Easter, I think Easter just belongs at 135. I don't know if he fits in at 140. Maybe he does. I need to see it. I think he beat Granados. I like Granados, but Granados hasn't looked good his last few outings. He got whooped up by Danny Garcia, where I thought that was going to be a good fight. And I think Granados' career is probably over. I like Easter, but I think Easter is a 135 guy. If there was like someone I'd talk about, I said a few guys would be on this list next year. I'm just going to go right there. Gary Antoine Russell, 14-0 with 14 knockouts. He's calling out Adrian Broner. Gary Antoine Russell, I think, will be on this list next year, and I'm looking forward to talking about him. And yes, he is the brother of Gary Russell Jr.
It's interesting you didn't talk about any of the guys that were in our actual thing. What about Baranchuk that you had at 7 that neither of us had ranked?
Yeah, so
Touch
like
on that one real quick.
I mean, even to go down my list, I have like Barbosa at 5. I don't know where you guys had him, but that was the guy who I think he just beats everybody down the line. I had to put Zapata ahead of Baranchuk because Zapata beat Baranchuk. I have Baranchuk ahead of Postal because I think he beats Postal. I think he beats Barrios. And I think he beats Easter. Baranchuk he just looks chiseled, and he looks like he's got the skills. And yeah, with the 8 knockdowns against Zapata, I think he could have won that fight. He was the last one down, and that's what happened. I think if there's a rematch, I think he could beat Zapata.
If he wins the rematch, he'd probably bust into our top 5, I'd imagine, then, too. Interesting that you guys all say, before I touch on the final 2, I hear you guys a lot of the times when you're talking about your guys here saying he beats Mario Barrios. We had him at 9-10-9, but you also said earlier when Davis beats Barrios, that's going to give him a resume. Are you saying like Barrios is kind of like a gatekeeper, or at least it's a name that you can put on there? I mean, that can't be that impressive a name if all these guys beat him, in your opinion.
If all these guys beat who?
Mario Barrios.
Yeah, but Barrios is still 26-0. With 17, I think he has more knockouts than anybody at this division. In our top 10, Prograis has 21. That's it. Barrios has 17.
Zapata got 26, but
My bad.
either way,
okay.
Yeah.
Either way, he's still top up there, man. Not to interrupt, Rich,
Go ahead.
but Barrios, I watched his last fight. He fought. Maybe it wasn't his last fight, but I watched him fight against Batur Akhmedov, and it was a very hard fought fight. It's the only fight I've actually watched Barrios fight. So I had to go back and remember, like, why is he fighting Tank Davis? But I watched it. He fought well. He knocked it. This dude was undefeated. Obviously not super. He was like 8-0 or something like that. But he's still a hard puncher. You should have seen the way Barrios looked at the end of this fight. It was pretty brutal. So I just don't think that he's going to be able to sustain a lot of stuff from top name guys in this division, given the beatdown that he kind of received. Even though he won the fight, the beatdown he received from Akhmedov. So this is why I believe that he just won't. I don't know how it'll translate. I mean, Barrios also has like a 5-inch height advantage and a 4-inch height advantage, and a 5-inch reach advantage on Davis. And that's going to be interesting for Davis. I don't think he's really fought a big fighter, but that's a different story. So I don't know. We'll see, but I just don't think Barrios has it.
Yeah, Barrios, that was from a headbutt in that one, but he did knock down Akhmedov twice in that fight, too, in the 4th and the 12th. But Yeah, I remember that, seeing that picture. That is nasty. I'm looking at it again right now. Doesn't look good. Interesting. All right. I think that's very interesting. All right, you guys ready to get in your top two? Well, it doesn't matter.
Do
I'm doing
it.
it anyway. All right. Our number
Good.
two is, I don't know, it might be a shock to some, but our number one, it definitely isn't a shock. Our number two with 25 points is Regis Prograis. I had him at 2. James had him all the way down at 4. And Richie had him at 2 as well. Me and Richie agree that Prograis is next in line for a Josh Taylor fight, I would imagine. Rich, you got him at 2. Tell James why we're right and he's wrong.
Well, I think Prograis just the best of the rest. He already lost to the number one guy in the tournament a few years ago. I thought Prograis was going to win. His resume is not that great, but I know what I see.
Passes the eye test.
Yeah, I guess. He beat Ivan Redkach, and Redkach has moved up to 147 before. Redkach is a very good fighter who moves up and down in weight. He'll put up a good fight against anyone. And he's also beaten like Terry Flanagan, who's like that fringe top 10 guy at the time of the fight. He was probably in the top 10 according to most sources like, Ring Magazine and maybe ESPN.com. But I have Prograis at number 2 because I think he beats everyone below the list. And I can't put Davis ahead of him until Davis starts beating some guys up. But yeah, I have Prograis number 2.
I mean, he had a great fight against Josh Taylor as a majority decision. I mean, one guy had a draw. I had Josh Taylor winning that fight, but it was close. I thought it was real close. That would be a great rematch. I think he's in line to have that rematch too. He should get that rematch. James, you had him all the way down at 4, which means you had Davis and Ramirez in front of him. I can't argue that because Ramirez is pretty good, but Davis, I understand the talent is there. We just haven't seen it yet, the resume. So I can't really knock you for having those guys in front of him. But you still had him up in your top 5. So why don't you explain Prograis at number 4?
Well, Rich touched base on this a little earlier. You're talking about knockouts in the division, and he's pretty much been at this division for ever.
Yeah.
I mean, so
32.
he is, I feel like he's a little older. Yeah, 32 years old, but he has 22 knockouts in those wins. So he definitely is comfortable in this spot, and I cannot knock you guys for putting him at 2 by any means. Like Prograis is a good. He is, his one loss is to Josh Taylor.
Yep.
Josh Taylor obviously is a good fighter. He also has some good fights or some good wins against Julius Ndongo and Joel Diaz. And Joel Diaz is like super old, was ancient at the time, but it's still, he was a good fighter when he was around. So it was, I just don't know where it's going to translate to. Moving, fighting with a rematch against Taylor, or getting a chance to fight Davis or Ramirez. I think he's got a better chance against Ramirez than Davis or Taylor, but he definitely isn't the draw that he should be for whatever reason, but he definitely puts on a show and comes to throw. So I definitely can agree with you guys putting him at 2. Definitely can't knock you on that, but I just got him at 4 because I think Davis and Ramirez probably at this point might give him just a little too much to handle. But I don't know, man. I've been wrong before.
I like the line that he what was the exact line you said? He puts on a show and he comes what?
He comes to throw.
Comes to throw. Puts on a show, comes to throw. That's funny because when you said that, for some reason, I just thought of that Redkach fight where Redkach claimed he got hit in the nuts and it was nowhere near his nuts. So he was putting on a show that he wouldn't be able to come ever again. They had to bring the stretcher out for him. You guys remember that? That was a Triller fight that they brought out the stretcher for the guy. And that's when Triller has their announcers right on the ring, basically yelling at the referee. He's nowhere near his balls. And I believe, what was the Snoop Dogg line? If he hit him in the balls, then that man can't wear jeans because he's up on his hip or something like that. It was Ivan Redkach was a joke in that fight. I mean, he was obviously hurt. That did thankfully get changed to a TKO. It wasn't TKO at the time, but he definitely destroyed Red Catch. But interesting. I don't know why that just dropped in on there. It would have been perfect. Just using our old lines there. All right, our number one fighter, unanimous across the board, 30 points, 10, 10, and 10. Always unanimous is the one and the only Amir Khan. Come on, Rich, you got a little better dancing in you than that. You starting to get like James on me now. Don't start getting like James on me now.
If you would have told me Amir Khan was included, then I would have put him. But he fought at 147 last.
Well, I know, but he's always a 10 in our book. Is my point.
In your book,
you're right about that.
Book.
He's always a 10. No, it's Josh Taylor. Everyone knows it's Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor, obviously coming off a great title win against Jose Ramirez, a great fight, real slobber knocker of a fight. It could have easily been Ramirez number one. If Ramirez won that fight, I think it would have been a good fight. But I don't know. You don't think it was a slobber knocker of a fight, James? You laughed up there.
I'm laughing at your words. You choose them. Slobber knocker.
That's an old JR line. JR
sounds like a 3-6 Mafia song.
No, JR, Jim Ross, WWF. Slobber knocker, baby. Josh Taylor, number one. Rich, fill us in. Why?
He has beaten, I think it's his last 4 fights. He has beaten guys that we have in our top 10. His last fight, he beat Ramirez. Before that, he beat Prograis. Before that, he beat Baranchik. And before that, he beat Postal. What more is the guy supposed to do? You want number one status, you got it. That's how you do it.
Yep. Beats all there is and takes all comers. I guess Davis is in his future, I guess. We'll see if Davis is going to be number one. Judge, what else you got on Josh Taylor? I mean, we pretty much touched on it. He beat everybody. So, you beat everyone. You are number one. Until to beat the man, you got to beat the man. And he is the man. So until somebody beats him.
I think he's the man to beat at this weight if he stays here. He's only the 6th person to be undisputed at any weight class in the 4-belt era. That's not something to take lightly. So I think if he stays at 140, that he is the individual to beat. So hopefully he hangs around a little bit and gives some guys some challenge. But yeah, there's not really much else to say, man. Like, he was impressive.
Well, that's the issue here. He's beating everybody at 140. Does he wait for Tank Davis here at 140, or does he move up? That's the big $1 million question. Rich, what does he do? If you're his manager, what do you make him do?
Avoid Tank and move up.
Okay.
This is going to be Tank's division probably next year. If you're Josh Taylor, you leave saying, what else do I have to prove? And people will say, well, you ducked Gervonta Davis. He can brush that off and say, when Gervonta Davis beats, Postal and these other names, then he can come talk to me. That's one thing. But yeah, if I'm Taylor's corner, I avoid Tank Davis and maybe take 1 or 2 fights, couple easy fights, get out of there, move to 147.
You don't think he should give Ramirez a rematch?
I think Ramirez can beat him, so no, don't give him a rematch.
Deserves a rematch. I think you could actually pay-per-view that one after that fight. Rich, Judge, you're raising your hand all the way like Lindstrom up there. What is it, Bach? What?
I am. You want him to move up to 147. If that's what you think his next move should be, I got 2 questions. One, which division do you believe is more dangerous for him? And secondly, who do you believe that he should fight at 147? Because I am really curious about that second question.
Judge putting on his hosting hat, throwing it at Filthy Rich. Go ahead. What you got?
Well, 147 is a pretty deep division. You don't just jump up and fight the top. I'd say someone like Broner, who can't figure out a weight. We might see the decline of Pacquiao. That might be something you go after. Sean Porter's been out of the game for a few years. I would still avoid Sean Porter, but time is not on Porter's side. I think it's a matter of time before you can take a Sean Porter fight. Danny Garcia's gone. Amir Khan's a UK guy. Maybe that fight could happen. Jose Ramirez has just the one loss to Terrence Crawford. Maybe you beat up Jose Ramirez before 12 and say, hey, I beat this guy quicker than you can. There's a lot of options at 147 where you don't have to fight the top guy right off the bat. You can wait for a couple years to see what happens. Spence may not be at 147 anymore. Crawford may not even be at 147 if he can't get a good fight. I don't know. That's a long answer, but
I don't know.
Looking for
before the judge host up there tries to jump in, if your reason for moving up is avoid Tank Davis, I think there's a lot more dangerous fighters for him at 147. That if you're trying to avoid just the one guy of Tank Davis, I think any of these guys in the top, even Sean Porter, or even an Ugas, is probably more dangerous at a 147 for an undisputed champion to come up and fight. Like, yeah, if Josh Taylor today says I'm 147, does he even make the top 5? I don't think he does.
Absolutely not.
No, I mean, he'd stretch to make the top 10.
Not.
So, I mean, it's just dodging one guy to go from number 1 of the division to go to, like, arguably number 10.
Well, remember, this is a prize fight. It doesn't matter if you're fighting the number 1 guy. You're trying to make the most money. All this number 1 stuff, this is our opinion. This is sports websites' opinions. That has nothing to do with his pocketbook. He can fight anyone he wants at 147. He's going to be a draw in the UK. He's a UK guy. Is there any other UK guys at 147? Doesn't even matter. I mean, it matters, but why do you need to fight a US guy? You're not going to make any money fighting these Americans. Stay in the UK. You have a home field advantage. I think he fought Prograis in the UK. Prograis a New Orleans guy. I don't know. Yeah, it's a deep division. You don't have to go after top 5 or top 10 guys. You could be a number 1 paid guy and still be ranked number 11 or 12 or 13.
I don't know. I think I'm going to lean in James's way on this one. James, you had your hand up for one more question there.
Not really hand up. I was just going to be tossing out some names here. That's up at 147.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, does he beat
Ugas?
Does he
yes.
Berman?
Ugas couldn't beat out. Hang on. Let me go one at a time here.
Right.
Ugas couldn't beat Abel Ramos. Abel Ramos, like 39 years old. That fight went 12 rounds. He couldn't put out Ramos. He should have knocked out Ramos. There's no excuse for that. Ugas is getting old. There's Ugas. He could beat Ugas. We're not talking 2021. We're talking maybe 2022 or even 23, but we'll say 2022. Ugas. I think he can beat Ugas next year.
Can he beat Thurman?
Yes.
Can he beat Boots?
I don't know. Gary Antoine Russell beat Boots 3 times. Boots is beatable. I don't think he can beat Boots today.
That was in the amateurs, though, right?
You call it what you want. He's lost 3 times.
Yeah. It's fair.
Virgil Ortiz.
Yeah, Virgil Ortiz. That's a good one.
Yes.
You think Ortiz isn't too powerful for him?
I don't know what power has to do with anything. I think Baranchik has probably the most power at 140. I think Davis has a lot of power at 140, but power don't, like, you got to knock people out at the same time. You got to have footwork, head movement. You got to have skills. He's a southpaw. It's hard to beat southpaws. Keep that in mind.
How about either of the Garcias, Danny or Mikey?
Danny's not at 147 anymore. Danny's at 154. And Mikey, yes, he can beat Mikey. Mikey doesn't belong at 147. He can beat Mikey.
Mikey might be the good fight for him to be fighting there, actually, if you're going to step in there. But I don't see him beating any of the, Crawford, Spence, Pacquiao, Porter. I don't see him beating any of those guys. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting argument. Is there more money in fighting guys when you're a top 10 guy or fighting lesser guys as the number 1 guy? I guess
there's more money in fighting Amir Khan. They're both UK guys, and the UK crowd is something different than the US crowd. You can make a lot of money fighting over in the UK.
Yeah, I guess. It makes a lot of sense. Judge, you have anything final to add on that? There?
No, the show's going on forever. So
it is.
I can't talk. I have a lot more to say about this just because of some names, but no, I can't.
What's the first of the month show? The first of the month show always goes long. Everyone.
No, that's all right. Thanks for answering my question.
But yeah, Rich, that was a very, very good answer to that question. I don't know if I 100% agree with it, but I think it raises a new question of where do you make more money? Do you make more money as a number 1 of a bad division or as a number 10 of a great division? I mean, that's a very interesting question that you would know more about than I do. And you said you would tell them to go up, so I trust in Rich.
You guys talked about this already. Well, at least on the pre-show before the Canelo Saunders fight. Bach made like the perfect points. You guys were talking about lighter weight classes don't get the respect or whatever, and it's moving up in weight. There's more money when you move up in weight. So yeah, it's better to be a top 10 guy in a higher division because there's probably more money than it is to be the number 1 guy at a lower division.
Does that change though, being an undisputed champion?
Well, I don't know what you're asking.
Well, I'm just saying there's only been so many few undisputed champions.
Like, what do you mean undisputed? You mean lineal champion, or you mean collecting alphabet titles?
Well, doesn't he have all the major titles?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to that
yes,
stuff.
he does.
Yeah, I thought Judge said he was like the first of like 8 people in the modern era. To
6 people in the 4-belt era.
4-belt era to win them all. So even Canelo hasn't done that yet, but he will. All right, we are running along here. So, Filthy Rich, why don't you bring us out home?
24 years ago, Wu-Tang Forever hit the streets, and it hit my ears. 5 years ago, we lost Muhammad Ali. I'll drink to you.
Muhammad Ali.
Cheers.
All right, Judge, if they're watching this show and they have the internets, unlike the people in Lindstrom, where can they listen to it? And if they're listening to it and they have the internets, unlike the people in Lindstrom, where can they watch it?
Listening, but want to watch, YouTube /Brews and Boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Watching and want to listen, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all the major podcast sites.
Alexa,
click like and subscribe.
Please do. It actually helps very much so with the with everything with YouTube, and we want to keep staying on YouTube. But we need them clikes. We need, that's what I call clicks and likes. They're clikes. We need those. We need those clikes. We need those clicks and likes. We need those notifications. That helps everything. It's amazing how I've been talking to people that have so many YouTube subscribers that how much that really gets you on the main pages and stuff. So,
Copyright Raider Entertainment.
was it? And Raidertainment LLC.
I said copyright Raider Entertainment for clikes.
It's coming up in the future here. There's some other big news. But until then, since we're running extremely long, but it's okay because we have a last episode last week. Next week, we're doing game shows. So it should be fun next week with game shows. We talk. Maybe we'll have a guest host for the game show part. Maybe I will step out of the game show hat. Don't know yet. We're still discussing it. I'll put my undefeated title on the line of all the games here. So just so you know, undefeated, and we still have plenty of Tecate to bet for next week. So for Judge Jimmy James, the keeper of all the Tecate, and Filthy Rich, and some guy up in Lindstrom with no internet, the Bach, I'm Raider Live. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for sticking around. I know it was a long show, but hey, it was worth it. It's a great show. And please like, subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.